Thank you very much. That was a very good presentation by Professor. I'm sure you can, if you have questions, we can send them an email. Now we go to the next one. Nigel, thank you very much for coming. Welcome. We go to the next presentation by Zakhele. Zakhele will take us through investing in technology for innovation and ideation based on HR approaches. Zakhele, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the CTO management team and the CTO leadership. Good morning. Do I have to share my own slides, or are you going to help me do that?
Yeah, you can share.
Okay, let me try and do that without wasting time. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Good morning, Chair. I have been requested to speak on innovating, investing in technology for innovation in terms of ideation of HR practices and approaches. So, Chair, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Let me go straight to the agenda. What I'm going to look at is, we know that the advent of COVID-19 and information.
Would you put your presentation in presentation mode?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Are we good?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm going to look at is, what do we understand at this point in time since the advent of information technology and COVID-19? That's what I'm going to look at. And I want to also tease out, Chair, what IT innovation and HR approaches will be driven if we innovate. What are we going to be looking at? And I'll go quickly with two practical investments in that regard. And I'll look at the HR value chain and how it will be affected in the future if we implement technological advances. And it's important also to look at the impact of technology on HR practices. Chair, we all know, as I indicated, that the advent of COVID-19 and information technology has affected and really became a game changer in our lives. We've never had to live in a period where we were living during COVID-19 era. And I think the reason that we raise that, it's important that we need to innovate so that we are able to look at how these external factors are affecting our lives. And Chair, increasingly we've seen that innovation is quite important so that we are able to recover from the aspects and the effects of COVID-19 as a pandemic. We've witnessed, Chairperson, that we've had to look at how we involve HR in terms of employees, in terms of how we engage them technologically, and they continue to be engaged in the workplaces. We've also seen that these efforts have forced, in particular, employers to embrace a new norm. In particular, we've never had to manage our employees remotely using technology, and I think we have to do that. We are seeing quite an emergence of new HR practices. And as a result, you would realize that this has affected the HR value chain the way we understand it. Now, what is it that we're dealing with, and what is it that we know at this point? We know for a fact that employees globally are reckoning with challenges of working remotely. I don't know about you guys, Chair, perhaps, during this period of COVID-19, I've had to learn how to work in my own home with my children and my wife. It was a whole lot new. It was a whole lot new culture that I have never been exposed to, because we've all been used to waking up and going to work. But during this period, we've had to share our spaces with our spouses and our children. And the weirdest thing at this point, everybody else is on an electronic gadget trying to access education websites, or trying to even work, or even like I'm doing now, I'm sitting in a meeting. We've had to do all that. But this period has brought in a lot of challenges for employers as well. We're learning that we have to now pay more attention on wellness issues that we've never paid before. There's a rise of mental health issues from employees, and we also need to learn how we then support our employees remotely. We've never had to do that, which is a challenge. And we all know, Chair, that digital economy is becoming quite a force in our life. I mean, we are seeing how it's changing the global economics. We're seeing how it's changing how the globe in its entirety functions. But I think the critical thing is also the fact that this period has made us look at the place of work as we knew it. The world of work as we knew it has changed. I could share with you, Chair, that in the workplace that I am in, we've had to then focus differently on vaccination. We never had to do that. Now you need to come up with protocols to manage employees. You also need to come up with new rules of engagement, as if that was not enough. Because of the scare of COVID-19, then you had to come up with technological tools in the organization to check whether or not people that are coming to work, is their body temperature right for them to walk into the workplace? And I don't think we were ready for this new reality. We've had to come up with ways to manage spaces because of this advent. Chair, I don't know what's happened in other countries. I know in South Africa, we're struggling with this, that we've had to rethink our HR policies. Never in our lives did we know that not wearing a mask in a workplace will be a transgression and people can be fired for that, or people can be put through disciplinary processes for not doing that. Little did we know that we need to come up with new leave arrangements, because now we're working remotely. We are managing people through technology. We never now managing people in their physical presence in the workplace. Now, we also need to then look at how we deal with leave arrangement in as far as quarantine is concerned. We've never had to do that. We now have to also understand, how do we manage employees that may react differently to vaccination, and how do we deal with them in the workplace? And you will tell me, Chair, if we didn't go through this pre-COVID, we wouldn't be thinking about all this. We've had to now think. In South Africa, we are dealing and battling with a concept of making vaccines mandatory for people to access the workplace, and which is quite critical. Now, we are having to reinvent how we've been communicating with our people, because we have to connect with our people remotely. We've never had to do that, which means that our communication strategy have to be jacked up a bit. And now we are dealing with the biggest misnomer ever: misinformation and disinformation. You'd realize during this period of COVID-19, we didn't know how to communicate, what to communicate, when to communicate what, and we didn't know how then are we accessing the workplaces through technology and many other ways that we've never done before. But what does it mean? I was quite excited yesterday when Dr. Maxwell Uber presented his paper, because I think what he did he put forward a very compelling argument in terms of the importance of understanding and the importance of approaching innovation. And I think we can agree, Chair, that the advent of innovation, it's really about how do we better our lives from today to the next point? How do we do, or how do we implement X differently than we implemented Y previously? Now, what are the things that we need to look at in terms of innovation? What are the things that we should be excited about innovation? Is that if innovation can enhance our life, then it's good. And I think you'll remember that also Mr. Laurel spoke about that it's important that we understand the adaptiveness of technology, right? The adaptiveness of innovation. Because if we don't adapt, I think the speaker that gave opening remarks spoke about the fact that we need to choose to adapt or perish. And I think this helps you start and understand the situation that you are in. Why do you need to live differently out of this situation? And I think innovation should also be anticipatory in a sense that it needs to show you what is it that you need to do differently in the future from what you are currently operating as. Chair, I looked at a few practical investments that we can look at to best effect HR innovations. And I think it's important to indicate that we know for a fact that automation and augmentation has been quite a game changer in HR technologies. We have seen that we have approached the working space differently. For example, you will realize that telecommunication technology got a very big uptake during COVID-19. And I mean, we used to look at teleconferencing, Skype and Zoom pre-COVID as just added value-add services. But we know for a fact, in the past 2 years, I'm sure Skype and Zoom and Teams as companies have made a lot of money. And I think you can know in the telecom space, there has been a lot more takeover of these companies. And we have seen how remote learning, which we should improve and promote during this period. We've seen how remote learning really was a gap filler during COVID, because during this period, we didn't know how to deal with employees. We had to work, training still had to go on in the workplace, but how else was that going to be done? It was done through remote learning and technology. But of importance in terms of innovating for the future, it becomes quite critical that we need to equip our HR workforce with future-proof skills. What am I talking about? We all know that the roles that we have today would require different sets of skills in the technological world. For example, a payroll clerk that operated pre-COVID, they're not operating the same post-COVID. And with this advent of technology, we rely a lot of on data. We are not interacting a lot with our people, and we don't need paper-based methodologies to deal with our data. Therefore, you can imagine that a payroll clerk will not do what they did previously. Now we need to train them to understand how to then deal with the data that they're getting on a daily basis, the data that they're managing in terms of salaries, in terms of records and all those things. It becomes a whole new culture. Now, lastly, in terms of what we could do for practical developments in this area, we also need to develop HR future strategies that then shifts us from how we've been doing things in the past. Now, I also took a detour a bit and really asked myself a question. So if we had to implement HR in a new world, where it's technologically based post-COVID in the workplace. How do we operate? And the question is, are we still going to need the OD specialists that we are currently having? Are we going to need talent sourcing managers in their current form? Or what are we going to need? And the answer to that, Chair, is that no, we would not, because we are, through this technological uptake, we are building a whole new culture. We are building a whole new workforce and society in the workplace. What do I mean by that? Do we need people that are going to be managing talent sources as we did? No, actually. So as I was browsing through the literature, I discovered the following three critical new roles that we may need to consider. For one, a workforce architect. And if you look at this, because in the new technological era, this person works a lot with data. They're supposed to be managing our talent planning. They're supposed to be managing how we do promotions and succession planning. This is our old talent sourcing manager or talent management specialist. And because now they're dealing with data, they're gonna do it differently. And now they are called an architect. And we have a new position again called a culture builder. You've never even thought about culture in the workplace. But because we are, as I indicated, we have built a whole new society. There are new cultural nuances in the workplace that we need to consider. I mean, I am not in London now, but I'm working and I'm interacting with you. What culture is this? So you need somebody that will be able to sit back and understand how do they manage me, who works on a daily basis and can interact with a multitude of clients without actually being in the office and working technologically. And I think it's something that we need to think about thoroughly. And a career shaper. Now that we are in this technological space, what kind of careers are we looking at in terms of the current workforce that we have? Because this comes with a whole lot of set of skills. We never paid attention to PowerPoint skills. We never paid attention to knowing how to operate technological as gadgets than we need now. So what type of careers are we looking at? And this person will be sitting and looking at analytics to say, what is the data giving me and what is it that I'm able to do with this data? And what type of careers do we need in the workplace? Chair, now, how does this information that I'm blabbering about affect the HR value chain as we understand it? What does it mean? And what we know, Chair, is that we're going to see a process where aspects like chatbots that are going to take over. What am I talking about? You'll realize that HR administration as a value chain aspect, we're going to have to do it differently. In the past, this was record-based, paper-based. We used to store this into some file somewhere. We used to have employee data kept somewhere in a cabinet. But in the future, we're not going to be able to do that. We've got the opportunity of chatbots actually organizing this for us. And then the next aspect of the value chain that is going to change dramatically is how we are currently running our recruitment processes. The chatbots are going to help. These new friends are going to ensure that when we apply online, our career suggestions will be there. We'll use natural language processing within the chat box system to sort the CVs that people use or load online for application. We're going to see algorithms that will match candidates with particular skills that are required. Chair, we're also going to see artificial intelligence affecting how we deal with performance management in the organization, how we also deal with compensation in the organization. What do I mean by that? We are moving away. The previous speaker was speaking about how we're going to have to look at talent differently using data. Now, this artificial intelligence will be able to assist us in using data to manage performance targeting, performance contracting than we used to do before. Currently, it's paper-based. Those who are lucky are using computer systems to do it. But with the advent of artificial intelligence, this is going to be a whole new era. That's why we need people like I was speaking about, career builders. And we've seen that with compensation, we are now going to be able to access international standards on compensation through artificial intelligence. Benchmarking for HR compensation, offering salaries for new candidates is going to come out differently. The next value chain that's going to be affected, Chair, it will be the following: the workforce, the retention, and so forth. How is this going to be affected in the future? We are going to see the use of algorithms to plan differently. We're going to see the use of algorithms that will assist us in terms of predicting the resignation patterns for people. How do we then put in place network analysis for retention of employees? That is going to change. And I think we'll use algorithms in the new era for these value chain processes. And Chair, we all know that talent management through e-learning, it's a whole new ball game. We're going to use again in artificial intelligence platforms to conduct e-learning. This artificial intelligence will be able to give us bespoke training that we may need. We are going to be able to match Zakhele's particular needs to needs that were tailored specifically through artificial intelligence to manage Zakhele's skill needs. And I think we will see that in the future, we will use different training methods. For example, we're going to be relying on virtual reality and augmentation reality for training. We are no longer going to need to be in training physically. Now, and I've indicated this before, Chair, that the future of the HR value chain is going to change dramatically because of this advent of automation and augmentation technologies. And they will transform how we contribute and how we build future HR activities. And we've seen how technology has made things much easier. I was not able to travel to London because there were problems with our visas, but I'm able to impact what I've been impacting if I was in London at this point. We've seen how HR departments are going to be able to work remotely and virtually. Efficiency is going to be promoted in that regard. And I think this future challenges are going to be easily overcome through technology. Chair, all this, how does it impact our lives in HR or as HR practitioners? Schwab is one of the proponents in the fourth industrial revolution. What he's saying is that because of the implementation of technological revolution, we're going to see the development of new socio culture and a new society will develop. And it's impossible to envisage that because we've never thought of a revolution that will change how the globe, how the workspaces function, how HR departments are running departments, in particular, how HR departments are managing people. And this is going to change. How does it change? We know that...
Zakhele, I requested that you try to wind up.
Okay, Chair, and I think I've spoken about this. I think this will be probably my quick one. We've seen how recruitment, learning and development, we've never seen easy adoption of learning and development like we are going to do now. We are now concerned about cybersecurity because of security practices, because we are operating in this space. We're going to communicate better and easy. Chair, I think I'm going to stop there by concluding as follows. The McKinsey Global Institute reported on the future of work and indicated that post-COVID, we've seen an acceleration of trends of remote work, e-commerce, and then the automations were heightened. We know for a fact that companies are planning to shift workspaces, and we know that remote work has made costs easy for organizations because we're no longer operating from the office. And we know that the new normal it has become a reality. Remote work and virtual meetings are likely here to stay. I think it's in terms of how we then chair, in conclusion, look at the process of innovation and in terms of how we introduce new techniques for execution in our workspaces. Thank you, Chair.